Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the world's worst web. My name's Andy Cunningham.
My name's Andy Shannon.
And on today's episode, we are going to just introduce ourselves, so you are not listening to a bunch of strangers talking at you for 20 minutes once a week. So let's start with my name's Andy Cunningham and my first exposure to the internet, because I feel like that is kind of crucial to what we're doing here. I was about 6 years old, which is unfortunately the average age nowadays that people were exposed.
My name is Andy Shannon, and I was exposed around the age of 9.
Yeah, we did not have a very long grace period. But so, how do you think that affected you?
I think I was crippled more socially after that period of time, as I would always just sit on the internet
Mm-hmm.
every day. That's all I would do.
Completely understand, as someone who was unfortunately, well, depends on who you are, diagnosed with some really severe social issues. That's all the social connection that I ever had growing up. So, unfortunately, two sides of the same coin. So, what kind of media was your poison, I suppose?
I think the media I was really interested in was Xbox. I started off on the Xbox 360, whether, like, weirdly enough,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't actually get online until I was 9, but I think I was around the age of like 6 or something when I started playing the trial version of
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft. And I really started getting exposed around 9 with Minecraft, YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, baby's first video game. All I can ever think of is Minecraft. It's a classic. Um, Fortunately, my first exposure was a tablet that my mother had, and because my mother had it, there were no parental locks. So my first exposures were Facebook, YouTube. I was very much so into social media at a very young age, which explains a lot because it can definitely hinder how you see the rest of the world, which I feel like is an important topic that we should touch on.
Yes.
So, how was your exposure to social media, like in general?
I think it was more so weirdly negative.
Mm-hmm.
All the friends I made online were weirdly enough super gaslighting. Like, they would constantly gaslight me into believing things, and because I
Mm-hmm.
was so young, I would admittedly uh, believe those things, even if they weren't so good.
Unfortunately, that is extremely common. There is a word for that. It's called manipulation. And it's extremely prevalent today online. I would know. I've been through it myself. I don't understand why people are like that. God, I wish I did. I wish I had answers, but I don't. But it is a good cautionary tale on why you should be very, very careful about what the younger people in your lives are exposing themselves to.
Mm. Yeah, and I can say that during that time, I did eventually move on from it,
Hmm.
but it was a very, very, very long and painful process for me growing up.
Oh, yeah, it sticks with you. You don't initially get to get over it like most people do because you are young. It affects your brain chemistry, affects the way you think for a really long time, which brings up another thing that I was personally exposed to. I know not many have had the displeasure, so consider yourself lucky. It's called pro-anorexia or pro-ana. It's exactly what it sounds like. It was the glorification of eating disorders. Think 2000s Paris Hilton, skin and bones, just put on display, worshipped. That was the kind of media that I personally grew up with.
Yeah, I think I remember that too because it was like really, really, really heavy
Hmm.
on it, especially even like along Xbox groups. They'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm so skinny. How much do you weigh?" Like stuff like that. They would be so like prevalent on how good do you look.
Hmm.
That was weirdly the thing. We didn't see each other, but we knew what our weights were, which was extremely weird even on Xbox.
Yes, which this is something that we do plan to touch on a further depth, which that's your heads up that this is going to be probably a very dark and triggering podcast. It was not named the world's worst web for nothing. We do plan to touch on topics that normally you would not hear about. That's kind of our entire purpose here, actually.
The weirdly interesting, the weirdly dark, pretty much anything you could probably think of, we're probably going to cover something.
Oh, yeah, we will touch on just about anything and everything we can get our grubby little hands on.
Because, yeah, I think the best way to prevent anything like this happening again is through exposure, is through awareness. Like, just think of this as another form of awareness for anything, really.
Yeah, number one rule when something is going on that needs to be talked about, you talk about it. Because that's the only way that anything will ever be done.
Yes.
So, on that note, the lighter parts that I find amusing to look back on were the early days of animation.
Oh, I love the early days of animation.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere you looked, there were people coming with new ideas, new styles, new music, people even designing music specifically for animations to go along with them. It was incredible. Uh, I personally recall a lot of animation having to do with some more macabre topics because we're the worlds we're staring at. Of course, we're going to talk about the dark stuff. And I just have vivid memories of like just dripping blood and gore, just drawn really, really well. Sometimes somehow making it past Zuckerberg. I don't know how that happened, but it made it, and it was really, really cool to younger me. And now older me's kind of sitting here going, huh, I wonder how my brain chemicals would be today if I hadn't seen that.
Yes, it's the same thing with older ones as well, such as Murder Drones. And I'm pretty sure there's been a couple more like popping up here and there, like Murder Drones here and there. Even though it's a really kind of popular show, a lot of people tend to watch it.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of it wasn't an animation series, but it was a series that was very popular amongst my social group personally, and that was Marble Hornets, which was based around, your typical creepypasta style characters, creepypasta style story archetypes. Uh Very dark and very scary for younger viewers, but for what it was at the time, it was made in the early 2000s. It was very, very good.
Yeah.
Which brings up creepypasta as a whole. I personally believe that that was the birth of horror on the internet. We wouldn't have gotten as far as we have now with it if it weren't for creepypasta taking the lead.
Yes, which you do see every once in a while a new creepypasta popping up. Like a while ago, I remember seeing Pinkamena, which was like not copy pasta, like kind of like a creepy pasta of Pinkie Pie.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was talking about it for like a little bit of time. It wasn't very long, I don't think, or at least I don't remember. But there was some games made on Pinkalina. I'm pretty sure that's her name. But if I'm wrong, I will fix it.
Oh, yeah. Creepypasta was so versatile that it was impressive. And once again, it's one of those things that looking back, I wish I had just waited to enjoy it when I was older, because I don't think that, as entertaining as it was appropriate for people in our age range.
Yes.
Which honestly touches on the entire premise of our show. The reason we were here in the first place, it's because we had these exposures at such a young age, and I guess we just want to take a preventative measure on others getting hurt the same way that we did.
Yes.
Because I am a very hard believer in the fact that, we can do better for ourselves. We can do better for our younger siblings, our children, maybe one day. I know a lot of listeners on this podcast may not have kids quite yet, but you never know. Could be a nursery in your future. But until then, just keep your eye out because you never know who's being exposed to what and when.
Especially nowadays when we see really, really young, even toddlers being
Hmm.
exposed. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, because upsettingly enough, do have a example of this from my personal life. I have several younger cousins because a lot of the people in my family are a bit older than me. They're already having kids of their own. Well, both of my cousins, they have little girls. Uh, in in both cases, they are under the ages of 13 and they have access to social media because I have found their accounts online. And it worries me sick personally, and I feel like most people feel the same way when they see that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because just let kids be kids. That's really what this is about. Just let kids be kids. Don't let them end up like us.
Yeah. I really, really wish I could see little kids playing outside more often, but when I walk outside and I see the streets, even in like a smaller town,
Mhm.
in any town really, I end up seeing no one. It's kind of barren. The only people you see is people jogging, rarely a mother with kids, and you see people walking their dogs too.
Yeah, because my favorite example of this is I live very close to the main parks in where I live. And unfortunately, I've been to both of them fairly often, and at both of them, I don't really see kids there anymore, except if it's for a birthday party, which is more than a little concerning.
Yes. I can count on both my hands how many kids I've seen at my park,
Hmm.
which usually I see at most six, five, maybe three, and the rest are teens.
Oh yeah, it's depressing how the roles have almost reversed as time has gone on, where teens are really just fighting to have back what we lost at their age due to exposure to the internet, due to the traumatic things that we did see growing up that changed who we are as people. We're trying to make up for that, and we're seeing kids much, much younger than us make the same mistakes.
Yes, which also, bringing up on that note, I've seen so many teens abusing different substances at parks,
Hmm.
which is really weird because wasn't there at some point when we were younger, they were saying pro nicotine in like at least vapes on the internet?
Oh, yeah, because we are the generation of vaping, we are the generation of nicotine, and most of that does fall on social media's hands because there was this big thing going on where it was like vaping is better than cigarettes. You know what's in it. It tastes better, it feels better, and then come to find out that it's actually much much more dangerous.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure um I've seen a lot of ads where it says it has chemicals in it
Hmm.
that is used to like preserve and taxidermy animals.
Yeah, every time someone hits a vape, they are inhaling formaldehyde,
Yes.
which I truly do not understand how there are so many uh, there's so much awareness out there, yet so much unawareness at the same time. We are promoting things directly against this, yet there is just as much media, if not more, pushing back against the correct ideologies, and it's incredibly wild to see.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a losing battle at this point because teenagers will do what teenagers do best and do whatever they want.
Yes.
Which leaves the question, what about the impressionable younger kids that look up to us? What are we teaching them?
Yeah, I seen little toddlers, which was my cousin's toddler. Um a year after she really popped out of the womb, before she could really walk, she
Mm-hmm.
was given a phone.
It's insane how parents would rather expose their children to something that they cannot monitor properly, even if they tried. There are millions of parental controls, there's millions of, apps centered on trying to protect your kids, but at the end of the day, you don't know who's on what.
Yes.
So, what's the point of risking it, especially when they're so young?
Now, I think this is a little controversial what I'm going to say,
Hmm.
but you can be a parent out there and you can say, "Oh, I won't let my kid do that." No, no, if I give birth, I won't, I just won't. but you never truly know.
Mhm.
My cousin said, I'm never going to do that. But what she did was she got so tired of the screaming, the kicking, the fighting, she just gave up. She gave up on her kid and just gave it the technology.
Yeah, which I really cannot drive the point home enough that all the technology will unfortunately do in circumstances like that is just cause more damage because they are learning online that their behavior is acceptable because it's so common in media nowadays because of situations like this. It is rinse and repeat.
I think the most effective way to have any success in anything is by not saying, I won't do that. It's by actually saying, I think I might, and I'm scared of that. I think that is the best action to think about when you don't want to do something and you want to succeed in that something.
Because it's the fact of life. You never know what will happen, and you never know what decisions you will make under pressure.
Yes, so always assume that you will make that mistake.
Well, I think that's it for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. It is about time that we return to our side of the deep dark web. My name's Andy Cunningham,
My name's Andy Shannon.
and we will see you later on the world's worst web.